Well, for a whole lot of people, lives have been lost, livelihoods have been lost. Many things that they were used to are no more for a whole lot of people. But one important thing which could be causing mental distress is not the loss of these things, mainly because they have more time with themselves. They just don't know how to deal with themselves. Essentially, in many ways, I know this may be a little insulting for people who are suffering at a certain level, but when they come out of it, they can see this, that all our mental problems on one level, I'm not saying this the entirety, on one level, it's our inability to handle our own intelligence. If we had half the brain that we have, we would be fine. Even now, I think there is one extreme step of lobotomy that if you remove some part of the brain, people do become peaceful or something like that. But essentially, our inability to handle our own intelligence is the main problem. So, the time that you have upon your hands is driving people crazy. Work was driving people crazy, endless, ceaseless action was causing them madness, but now you have time on your hands. I know these are bad words to use today, you are not supposed to say crazy, you're not supposed to say mad, you're not supposed to say insane, but you know all the words, I don't have the vocabulary for various descriptions that could be there. But essentially, people do not know how to deal with themselves. They think the problem is coming from elsewhere. No, human experience is essentially caused from within, all human experience. Pain and pleasure, joy and misery, anxiety and ecstasy, all caused from within. So, are you in charge to cause what you want? Are you in a place where you can cause what you want? Or are you in some state of compulsive reaction to situations that if there is one problem, you will make 10 problems within yourself? Right now, people are predicting mental health pandemic, suicide pandemic. So what you're saying is there is a virus pandemic, it's bad enough, it's disturbed many things. Now you will multiply it within yourself and make it into 10 different problems, and then you think you have some kind of a qualification. No. You need to understand you're just multiplying one problem into many things within yourself, because human experience is your business. What happens in the world is not entirely ours. What the world throws at us is not entirely determined by us, so many things happen, all right? But what happens within us is entirely our business. As cultures, as individual people, as cultures, as societies, we have not taken charge of this. The way we eat, the way we sit, the way we breathe, we have not handled this mechanism in such a way, the human mechanism, which is the most sophisticated and complex mechanism on this planet, which is a consequence of 1,000,000 years of evolution. Now we don't know how to handle it. So it's just like if you sit on a bicycle and you don't know how to ride, of course you crash and you think there's something wrong with the bicycle. If you don't know how to drive the best car in the world, you still can kill yourself. So does not mean there's something wrong with the automobile. Similarly, there is nothing wrong with this, it's just that this is a kind of a chemical soup. Now, are you a great cook or a lousy cook? That's a question.
I'm a bad cook.
No, that's not good for your profession. You should not be saying, I'm talking about this soup.
I know that soup, absolutely, the chemical soup. Well, I can see the analogy, and I can see why self-control is so important.
So, this is not something that today, because there is pandemic, you can take charge of yourself. This has to become the culture from an early age. Right now, you're seeing this everywhere, just anywhere you see, even in advertisements, the commercials that come for a few seconds, definitely in the movies, and I'm sure it is so in the television shows. How do you deal with something that you don't like? Well, if you find somebody who is weaker than you, punch their face into pulp. If you don't find anybody, punch a glass pane. If you're a little more stupid, try a wall. If you're very stupid, try a rock. Break something, throw something, do something, scream, yell, obscenities. This is the way you deal with something that you don't like. You're setting a culture that I will go mad is like a kind of a qualification. What we need to understand is the line between sanity and insanity is so thin, so thin. If you push it too often, one day you will cross, you will be successful to be on the other side. Any number of people, they are going to the other side and coming back. So, people will come, as a expression, people are saying, I was with this person and he said this, I was really mad for some time and then I came back, all right? So they're saying they crossed the line and they came back. Well, if you cross the line too often, one day you won't be able to come back, then they will have to come to you or get admitted to the institutions, all these things. But a whole lot of people in every society are doing this every day. They think it's their right to cross the line and come back. If you cross the line too often, one day it may not let you back. That is very much a possibility, because life within you understands, the intelligence within you understands you want to be on the other side. This may sound like a very unfair judgment for those who are suffering mental ailments. Well, there are pathological situations, there are genetic situations, I know this. But there is a way to go beyond all that. This is why a human being is capable of being conscious. That's why we call you a being. We do not refer to any other creature on this planet as a being, because only this creature is supposed to know how to be. If you know how to be, would you be sane or insane? That's a big question. It's a very obvious answer. If you know how to be, you would be in the highest level of pleasantness, not in highest level of unpleasantness. So, this has not been taken charge of. We are treating it like some external things are causing our experience. No, external things can be stimuli, but it is the way we respond which causes the experience.
It's really profound. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce. So we've arrived now at Port James, and at Port James we have Dr. Adrian James, and I'm going to give you an introduction to Adrian. Adrian is our president. He's the president for all three of us. He's the president of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Adrian is profound in terms of his influence in psychiatry in the UK and beyond. He's founding chair of the School of Psychiatry at Peninsula Deanery. He was previously the chair of Westminster Parliamentary Liaison Committee for the Royal College of Psychiatrists, something that he did for 5 years, where he was in charge of parliamentary liaison, lobbying ministers and attending party conferences. I'm sure you had lots of fun too, but he says it was initially horrifying. The only pleasure he got was the chance meeting that he could have with his wife, Sarah Wollaston, who's also a friend of mine, who was an MP at the time. And she's a GP too. So Adrian was clinical director for mental health, dementia, and neurology. He worked for NHS England Southwest, and he has chaired a number of review groups, such as on care systems, cannabis, prevent and learning from deaths. He set up the Workforce Wellbeing Committee at the Royal College of Psychiatrists, and this remains his passion even during his presidentship. So Adrian would like to have a discourse with you, Sadhguru.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Thank you for giving up your time and for giving us the benefit of your wisdom. And in my experience as a psychiatrist for 35 years, people often say, well, what's the cause of mental illness? And I guess, I think there are three causes. There are people who have terrible life experiences. We sometimes refer to them as the social determinants of mental illness. And they've been put in a situation through no fault of their own and developed an illness. As you said, Sadhguru, there are some people where it's genetically programmed into them that they will develop a mental illness. But there are issues around well-being. And as you said, that COVID has had a dramatic effect on the whole world, and it had caused terrible suffering. And but it has also given us all an opportunity to stop and think about our lives, and it's a time for renewal. And as you said, many of us we're not used to stopping and reflecting. We just carry on living the lives we've always lived, chasing things that quite often don't bring us happiness, and not actually standing back and thinking. And I would really like to hear from you about what your advice is to the majority of people who don't create that sort of time and space